Let's kind of talk a little bit about 1565, which I think is kind of, we get sort of to this crowning moment in the history of the Knights Hospitaller, the Great Siege of Malta.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, this is an amazing event. So, what are your thoughts about this event, Paul?
This is one of my favorite moments in the history of the Hospitallers. More than anything they really kind of did in the Holy Land, this siege of Malta, when the Ottomans are just absolutely ready to overwhelm them, they managed to defeat them long enough, at least, for the Spanish reinforcements to come and finally kick the Ottomans out. And it's a defining sort of moment because the Ottomans really, except for the Battle of Lepanto, after the siege of Malta, there's really no attempt beyond Lepanto for the Ottomans to really reach the West again. The mid 1500s is when we see everything from the siege of Vienna. We see the Ottoman tide being turned back from Europe. And the 1565 siege of Malta is where we see it at the ocean side, in the middle of the Mediterranean. Because if you look at a map, Malta is strategically positioned between the north of Africa and Sicily. It's this tiny little island, but unless you have the ability to cut off supplies to an island and maintain a military presence in the nearby area, you can't ignore an island of your enemies behind you and just keep sailing on. So the Ottomans knew this, as did every great commander in the medieval and the early modern world. So they know that if they're going to open up that soft underbelly of eastern Spain, southern France, and northern Italy, they know that if they're going to invade via these areas of the soft underbelly of Europe, that they're going to have to do it by taking out Malta and probably Sicily first. Malta is the obvious choice because it's the lesser defended and it has so many good ports that you can just bring your ships in there, let your men rest, relax, recoup, use it as a staging area, and then move into Sicily or into these other areas. In May of 1565, the Ottomans show up. They are armed to the teeth, and the Knights Hospitaller have well outlived their crusading glory days. They outnumber the knights there by about 3 to 1. But as we've seen, 3 or even 4 to 1 odds, it really doesn't matter to the Hospitallers. They're going to stick there and they're going to fight it out. And they do. They take heavy casualties, but on September 11th, 1565, just about 3 months or so after the initial siege starts, they finally just say, nope, we've had enough. And the Ottomans, they back off after losing over 10,000 soldiers to this. With the Spanish on the horizon, the Spaniards are not keen to let the Ottomans gain any sort of purchase in Italy. At this point in time, of course, Spain actually owns the Kingdom of Naples in southern Italy. They have great ties to Italy, so they're not keen to see Ottoman Turks so shortly after they had just kicked out the Moors. They're not keen to replace one Muslim group with another. So they're not interested in seeing Naples, they're not interested in seeing Genoa or any of eastern Spain fall to these Ottoman Turks. So they arrive with reinforcements and are eventually able to drive them off. Jean de Follette is the Grand Master of the Knights of Malta, and he is able to inspire his men. He's able to push them beyond really the limits of their endurance. A 3 month siege is a fairly long siege, especially in an age when we don't really have preservatives other than to say pickle things or put them in salt. So a 3 month siege is fairly harsh. But after this siege ends, one of the great things that kind of happens out of this is donations start to pour into Malta. The military order at this point kind of sees a little bit of a resurgence in their importance, because everybody in Europe has kind of realized, hey, these guys are really what blunted that Ottoman threat to France, Spain, and Italy. We owe these guys. And they start to make sure that Europe knows that the Knights of Malta did something very, very great there. Some of the greatest stuff that the Knights of Malta are ever able to pull off.
Thanks for watching. This channel posts a new video or podcast every Monday. My historical novel, Why Does the Heathen Rage?, is available now on Amazon. Click on the link in the info box below the video to get your copy. Also, check out the Real Crusades History blog at realcrusadeshistory.com, where Dr. Helena Schroeder posts a weekly article on Crusades history.